Am I a ham? I'm Joseph. This is Input English. Today we have a fun discussion, and it keys off that question, am I a ham? That is your humble servant, Joseph, a ham? Ever since I first attempted to learn a language other than English, I was confounded by the fact that these other languages have very different uses for their words depending upon context. When I first encountered this in German, I thought it was a great betrayal. How am I ever going to learn this language if the word doesn't always mean the same thing? Well, that's the way it is. And there's no place where that is more true than the English language. Words can mean all sorts of different things depending upon their context. Now, what that tells us is if we are trying to memorize lists of words, and if we are trying to define them by translating them to our native language, then we're sunk. It won't work. We'll never be able to remember all those meanings. But if, on the other hand, we're learning English with comprehensible input and everything's in context, then the context will give you the clue how that word is used in that particular setting. This is where comprehensible input shines. So I started with the question, am I a ham? So what is a ham? Well, it depends on the context. First of all, people who are learning English as beginners will probably learn that ham is a type of meat. It's a dish. It's a type of food. Simply put, ham is a preserved type of pork. It could be preserved by any number of curing methods, including smoke, salt, or other chemicals. Some ham is dried. So various methods are used to convert fresh pork meat into ham. Now, the reason this all came about, of course, was the need to preserve food so that it wouldn't spoil. And this all occurred before the invention of refrigeration. So if we accept that a ham is a preparation of pork in a preserved form and is intended as food, then you could say right there that I'm not a ham. No. But there are other definitions of the word ham. One of these comes to us from the theater. It's an old term, probably from the early 1800s. In theaters, many of the actors would overact. They would be overly dramatic. And this picture of overacting or overdoing something was noticed by people in the population. At the same time, it was a custom to use ham fat to remove the makeup from stage actors' faces. And so the label that was applied to these stage actors was ham fatters. That is, someone who applies ham fat to their face to remove makeup. It was a casual term, a slang expression. Over time, the term ham fatter was shortened to ham. So in the 20th and 21st century, if someone is a ham, then they are overdoing it. Their behavior is exaggerated. Perhaps their behavior is designed to call attention to themselves. Overacting. If you're a ham, you overact. So from all that, you can see that if you call someone a ham, or you describe someone as a ham, you're describing somebody who is overdoing it and drawing attention to themselves. I would hope that people would not consider that I am a ham in that respect. That sort of behavior is easy to find online and on YouTube videos. a lot of content creators do ham it up. They are overly dramatic or overly enthusiastic. They're trying to be successful in this medium, and they're using that over-the-top delivery to garner success. Given that this channel is an educational channel providing comprehensible input, I don't see the point in overdoing it and being a ham. So is that it? Are those the definitions of ham? No, no, no. We've got one more for you. There may be others, but these are the ones of which I am aware. You can call someone a ham if they are an amateur radio operator. I don't know how prevalent this is worldwide. The term ham in this setting came out of the US. During the 20th and 21st century, some people embrace a hobby, amateur radio. Now, the US federal government, under the Federal Communications Commission, FCC, regulates what can be broadcast in terms of radio signals. In order to participate in amateur radio, one needs to have a license granted by the FCC. These licenses are in 3 tiers. The entry level, the easiest tier to qualify for, is called technician, and this is where most people start out. The next level is the most common level for people participating in this hobby, and this is the general license. This requires greater knowledge, and it grants access to more frequencies than those which are granted to the technician level. For most people, it is desirable to move up to the general tier. The top tier in amateur radio in the United States under FCC licensure is the extra. Amateur extra is the hardest license to acquire. It requires much greater knowledge, and it grants even more frequencies for use compared to the other tiers. It is my impression that the amateur extra is the least common license held in amateur radio. Amateur radio is an interesting hobby because there is a lot of room for innovation. A lot of people that participate in this hobby actually make their own radios. They solder their own connections. They restore old radios. They do a lot of things related to the hobby that require a lot of skills and knowledge. So what is the nexus between amateur radio and ham? Well, in the United States, if you refer to someone who is an amateur radio operator licensed by the FCC, you might simply call them a ham. This term of art developed as a slang term in the early to mid 20th century. As amateur radio developed, much of the communication was done with Morse code. That is, the operator would have a key and would send out a series of dots and dashes to send a message encoded in Morse code. Now, as you know, you can look at handwriting and perhaps recognize who wrote something. There are stylistic characteristics of handwriting. These stylistic characteristics can allow an expert on handwriting to determine who wrote a particular handwritten passage. Just like there are stylistic characteristics of handwriting, there are characteristics of how Morse code is sent. The operator could be identified sometimes by their styles, and their style was referred to as their fist, this referring to the hand that was relatively closed and actuating the key. With the presence of amateurs sending Morse code signals on the airways, the professional operators using Morse code would hear their code and consider it perhaps clumsy. So a pattern developed where the professionals using Morse code would refer to the amateurs as being ham-fisted. Ham-fisted was a term for that clumsiness sending Morse code. Ham-handed is also a pejorative term for someone who is clumsy. If someone is doing something manually and they show no skill or little skill and they appear to be very clumsy, it can be said that they are ham-handed. Now, ham-handedness can also be applied to non-manual things. If you are managing a problem, you can manage it in a ham-handed way. Referring to something as being done ham-handedly is not a compliment. It is criticism. So over time, the term ham-fisted was shortened to ham. They were just ham radio operators. I've already given you the picture that this was a pejorative. This was criticism. And so theoretically, it could be very embarrassing to the amateur radio operator to be called a ham. It's not a very nice way to be referred to, right? Well, except for human psychology, you will see that sometimes when people are given a pejorative, a negative label, they will embrace that label and turn it into a badge of honor. Embracing a negative label can redefine that label. It can allow them to regain a sense of pride, a sense of group identity. So in the early 20th century, calling someone a ham radio operator was negative. Now it's a very positive term. Amateur radio operators call each other hams. They have embraced the label, and they've turned it into a positive. This is not the only time that happens. This is part of human psychology. Now, bear in mind, I am not a psychologist, and I don't play one on television. No, I'm unqualified. But I am an observer of the human condition, and I see this pattern that people, when they have a negative label foisted upon them, sometimes they will embrace it and turn it into a badge of honor. Another example of this occurred in England. In the 18th and 19th century, there were basically two career pathways for physicians and surgeons. This was very different than the way it developed in the 20th and 21st century. Now a surgeon in the United Kingdom has to have a medical degree. They have to be a doctor to become a surgeon. But many decades ago, that was not the case. The physicians were trained in medicine, and the surgeons were trained in the Surgeons Guild. So in the 17 and 1800s, one could see a class distinction between physicians and surgeons. The physicians didn't want surgeons to be called doctor because they came out of a guild. They were tradesmen. They were not physicians. The way this evolved was very interesting because the surgeons responded to this by embracing it. You can see evidence of this to this day. In England, when a student graduates medical school, they are granted a doctorate. They can be called doctor. But when they qualify as a surgeon and they finish their qualification as a surgeon, they are granted the title Mr. or Miss or Mrs. or Ms. But basically they are known from then on as Mr. This is a nod to their tradition. This was another example of a group that was labeled with a pejorative term, but they embraced that label and turned it into a badge of honor. We also see more modern examples of this. Take, for instance, the term nerd. When I was a kid, being called a nerd was a very negative term. It was a stereotype of someone who was socially awkward, studious, non-athletic. And back in that era, being called a nerd was hurtful. It was insulting. Now in the 21st century, being called a nerd is quite the opposite. I would submit that the term nerd is really not currently considered a pejorative. So back to the original question. Am I a ham? Indeed I am. Many decades ago, I studied for and took the exam and became an amateur radio operator, and I currently hold an FCC license as an amateur extra radio operator. I am indeed a ham. I invite comments below, and if you like videos like this, be sure to click on this one next. See you soon.